Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Exploring the Motherland, episode 25, titled Exchanging Oppressors. And for my famous intro, Exploring the Motherland is solely for the purpose to continue and promote the message of Quest to Unite Africa. Now you're asking, what is the message of Quest to Unite Africa? Or what is the mission of Quest Unite Africa? The mission of Quest Unite Africa is to promote economic development and critical infrastructure for the benefit of the African diaspora and the African continent as a whole. We do this through four main strategies. That would be medicine, technological innovation, cultural engagement, and business. Exploring the Motherland will keep you updated weekly with the current events happening on Africa and how it relates to our mission and why we do what we do for Quest Unite Africa. So without further ado, how Kenya police hid deletions of anti-government protests. So, as some of you have been following this show or just on your own, Kenya is literally on the brink of, well, it is already pretty much a failed country, but this is now a human rights violation of what's going on. It's been found out that people who have participated in the anti-finance bill protests have been abducted and deleted, and police have been lying about reporting about different people missing and how different people have been deleted. And for this news story, and I will put it in the chat, just give me 1 second. So you can follow along or read at your own pace or own time. There you go. 19-year-old Charles Owino was deleted by a gunshot to the head during a day of anti-government protests near Nairobi in July, according to an autopsy report seen by Reuters. But Kenya's police recorded his death as a road accident. His brother said, citing the morgue logbook, he was shown after he visually identified Owino's body. Reuters has not seen a copy of the logbook entry. In separate case, police said Shaquille Obinji, 21, died in a road accident. His father told Reuters, also citing an entry in the morgue logbook, but Obinje was shot in the neck, according to the government's own autopsy report conducted after his father visually identified his body. So basically, they lied about his son being deleted by a road accident, and then they had to change it because he was able to see the body, and obviously he saw that there was a gun shot wound inflicted upon his son. So what's happening is tragic, and let's go to the video. I will put that in the chat as well.
The deaths of two young men in Kenya during anti-government protests have sparked accusations that police misinterpreted their causes of death, with officials allegedly covering up killings linked to the unrest. 19-year-old Charles Owino was shot in the head during the July protests near Nairobi last year, but authorities recorded his death as a road accident according to his family and morgue records. Similarly, 21-year-old Shakil Obienge, also killed during the protests, was said to have died in a road accident by police despite an autopsy revealing he was shot in the neck. Both deaths were part of a wave of violence that swept through the country as thousands of young Kenyans protested against tax hikes and political corruption. The autopsies on Owino Obienge and two other men revealed sharp discrepancies between the causes of death listed in police records and the findings of public pathologists. In Owino's case, his brother was shown the morgue logbook, which listed his cause of death as a road accident, though the post-mortem showed a gunshot wound. Obienge's father faced similar contradictions when he identified his son's body, later learning through an autopsy that Shakil had been shot at close range. Police officers who spoke to Reuters anonymously said authorities often mischaracterize deaths caused by police as accidents, mob justice, or drownings in an attempt to conceal the true nature of the violence. Reuters spoke with several relatives who described how morgue records and police statements diverged sharply from the autopsy results. The deaths of Oino and Obienge were not isolated incidents. Several other protest-related deaths have raised alarms, with some family members alleging that police were responsible for killings disguised as accidents. Kefer Odivor Oema, for instance, was reportedly picked up by the police during a protest and later found dead, with police attributing his death to mob justice. Oyuma's family contested the claim, alleging that he had been severely beaten up by officers. Another young protester, Denzel Omundi, was discovered drowned after going missing for several days, though his autopsy suggested prior injuries.
He went to the government, to the parliament during demonstrations, and he was one of the Gen Zs who went there following the video which came up on the social media. And after that, the boy went missing.
Kenya's National Police Service has remained largely silent on specific cases, and government representatives have not responded to multiple requests for comment. The government's response to the protests has been sharply criticized by human rights organizations. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have raised concerns about the large number of enforced disappearances and police killings, claiming that the authorities are engaged in a cover-up.
It is required by law that where we are implicated as police, we don't investigate ourselves. It has to be done by an independent oversight authority. In this case, we can either have the Internal Affairs Unit, which is within the police, or the oversight authority, which is the IPOA. So it's not a yes or no answer.
During the protests, which began in late June, young people flooded the streets to demand changes in government policies, particularly in response to rising taxes. The authorities' violent crackdown on the demonstrators, including reports of live rounds being fired, led to at least 42 deaths, according to Deputy President Kithure Kindiki. Rights groups allege that many of these deaths were a result of extrajudicial killings by the police. The National Commission on Human Rights recorded a staggering 82 cases of enforced discipline.
All right, so this is an example of failed cultural engagement. I mean, you try to usually talk to your youthful population and instill confidence in them and, give them different avenues and different solutions to the problems of what they're facing. I mean, this is just a failed human rights. This is just a failed government, because this is a human rights violation, silencing and deleting your young population, especially just because they're opposing what's going on in the country. I mean, this is a total bad look on Ruto and his government's part. And I mean, it's not like they are, over, stepping their rights. I mean, they literally are in economic destitute conditions, and Ruto and his government hasn't done anything to help them. He hasn't made any initiatives to help get the youth jobs. He hasn't done any initiatives to help them train or to help, them develop careers or help them further along with their economic progress or future. So what else are they going to do but protest? And this is just, again, a failed cultural engagement, because you need to, create policies that help, foster confidence in the future of the country, because, as they say, the children are the future. So how can these young adults, how can they have any hope, or how can they live in a country that doesn't want to hear their cries of injustice and economic poverty? Instead, you silence them and you obfuscate, meaning, change different things within law to hide yourself and, hide yourself of any wrongdoing. This is just absolutely, what's the word I'm looking for? This is absolutely unacceptable. And we will continue to see this going on until they absolutely kick out Ruto and his government. And, what we can do to help our brothers and sisters is to help them have different outlets for their voices to be heard, create initiatives that help them with the necessary skills to get ahead and not rely upon their corrupt government.
My people, we're going to start by Kenya. A lot of bad things are happening in Kenya right now. People are disappearing, people are being unalived, and the government doesn't want to take responsibility. And we're going to find out what's really happening in Kenya. This is scary. We're going to follow up now. In the DRC, about 70 people are going to be unalived live. These are civilians. Some of them are young men. Some of them are adolescents. We're going to find out why. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day, but it's very hot. I'm telling you, it's 40 degrees right now. You have no idea. I'm sweaty. Look. See that? I don't even have, Soviet or something. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to have to use this. This is for, your glasses. I'm going to use it for now. I'm sorry. You're going to excuse me. It's family until I go maybe I'll wash it. If I don't wash it, I get rid of it. Anyway, I don't use the glasses anymore. I salute you. My name is Zach. I don't know who you are. If you watch this video to the end, we're going to love each other. We really are. We don't play, we don't act. We don't do all that. This is real thing. Don't you sweat? You don't sweat. You do sweat. Don't you forget Soviet sometimes? Of course you do. So how do you react when you forget Soviet? You do this. Then you act like you didn't do that. Anyway, here we bash everybody, okay? We bash Nigerians, we bash South Africans. Nigerians and South Africa hate it when we bash them. We bash every country. Yeah. Gabon, Swaziland, Uganda, Kenya, you name it, we're gonna bash. We don't care, we're gonna bash. The goal is to bring Africans together so we can reflect and think. I salute you from all over the place, the diaspora, United States of America, the African American community, you're home. The Caribbean, Jamaica, Wagwan, me boss, you're home. You want to know about Africa? You're at the right spot, okay? Even if you're an African and you want to know what's happening in the next African country, you're at the right spot. YouTube say you guys watch videos, but you're not subscribed. Why? I wonder. Please subscribe. You know you like this, right? I like you too. Disappearances. Many incidents of torture being reported. Well, nobody's going to acknowledge openly like we're torturing people. They're not going to do that. But something really bad is happening in Kenya. And right now, there's a young man named Gideon Kibet, best known as Kibet Bull. He's a young cartoonist. So he makes cartoons about political events. So he's been talking very drastically about the government. He's been very honest. People are not happy. And some of the way of expressing yourself is cartoons. because they noticed that back in time when people expressed themselves as free journalists, they disappeared. Therefore, let's maybe use cartoons, but he's designing the president and acting the way he's acting and doing all these type of things. Maybe we can pass our message without necessarily being abducted or being subjected to very harsh laws. Unfortunately, this young man, Gideon Tibet, and his brother have disappeared since some time. Now we're going to talk about this. We don't care whether it's Kenya. There's no such thing as Kenya's affair. South Africa, no, we are involved because the countries were only created in 1985. Whatever's happening in your country, we're going to open it up and we're going to talk about it. We're going to bash if it's necessary. So the young boy disappeared. He's been criticized for depicting the president in a way that some people did not like. So according to Kenya National Human Rights Commission, in the past 7 months, at least 82 people have been taken and nearly a third of them remain unaccounted for. So people, how do you know about Tibet? Because Tibet is a prominent person. He's a reputable guy. So when he disappears, people notice. Tibet and his brother, Ronnie Kiplagat, went missing in the capital, Nairobi, on Christmas Eve after they met opposition legislator Okia Omtata. So that's what it is. Now, they said the police is behind it. Now, how do they know the police is behind it? Because apparently the police had broken already into his home at 150 kilometers from Nairobi back in time. So the police has been knocking. Okay. Now, the young man has been making pictures of the president. Since the president has done a few things. Let me give you context quickly, okay? This is Kenya. Lovely place, beautiful people. A while back, Mr. Ruto, the president, came into power. He said, from now on, nobody will need visas to Kenya.
Let me say this. As Kenya, by the end of this year, no African will be required to have a visa to come to Kenya.
Okay, you can just come whenever you want, no problem, because Kenya apparently is the way, where the first human beings were born or something like that, where they discovered the first human. Therefore, nobody needs a visa to go to Kenya. People were very happy, very excited. But then later on, it changed. Well, no, you don't need a visa, but before you come, you need to announce yourself online, send your names and everything, and you need to pay $30, okay, before you come. So people go like, but I thought you said no visa, because isn't that a visa? So many people were frustrated. Even the people that could go to Kenya with actually no visa now have to apply for some sort of whatever thing that costs $30 before they go to Kenya. That's very frustrating. Number two, Kenya, just a while back, people were down in the street fighting and pushing. Not happy. Kenyans are not pushover. They're not. They were fighting. Why? Because government via William Ruto came up with the law. What's a law? They were proposing a law on taxing many, many things of everyday life of poor people. Well, everybody's poor. What do you expect?
Honorable members, the results of the division on second reading of the Finance Bill 2024 is as follows. Ayes 204, nays 115, abstentions nil. So the ayes have it. Order.
The majority of Kenyans are poor. They're not rich. So you want to tax bread? You want to go buy bread? There should be an extra tax over bread. You want to go buy, sanitary pad for women? They need an extra tax for sanitary pad. But you even got cancer. You want to go to hospital for treatment. There is an extra tax for cancer. Why? Because government wants funding and government is indebted, and you, the people, needs to get money out of your pockets so the government can have money. In the meantime, government makes money. Where does government make money? Government makes money through the people and other things, but they misuse the money. Yeah, buy big cars, big houses and all that stuff. Spending on areas they shouldn't be spending. Now the people should pay for that. But the people of Kenya were not happy with that at all. They came down the street, pushing and pulling. They asked that law to be reversed.
We are not going to sit at home so that they are going to pass another finance bill without our approval. We are going to add our voice to this, and we need them to understand that we are not okaying what they want to force on us.
And they were very successful. After being successful, William Ruto chased some people from government. He said, well, we're going to remove some people from government. Instead of removing himself, he removed some people, making it look like they were the incompetent one. I'm not saying the president is incompetent. I still want to go to Kenya. I didn't say that. Anyway, what I'm saying is people from Kenya came down the street asking for justice and asking to be treated appropriately. Kenya has been fighting. The doctors in Kenya have been in the street because they are not being paid appropriately. We're talking about doctors working for government hospital. They've been in the street. You know, they asked for better payment. They also asked that if their family members ever had to go to hospital.
All right, because I have a lot of stories to go. Just for the sake of time, the link is in the video, family, and we're going to go on to the next story and basically why I titled this Exchanging Oppressors. Chad and Senegal rebuke Macron's remarks on military agreements. All right, if you've been keeping up, France failed their strategic partnership with Chad and Senegal, particularly as it pertains to promising security of borders from jihadism of both countries. Chad and Senegal saw the progress made by the AES and how they have proven that France is undermining their sovereignty. Furthermore, it has been proven they are funding jihadism in these regions. Chad and Senegal have sharply criticized French President Emmanuel Macron's comments about the withdrawal of French troops from Africa, where he accused some of African leaders of ingratitude and claimed their sovereignty depended on French military presence. You see that? That's just, again, this dude is, losing. He just keeps on putting his foot in his mouth. I don't know what he thought about, I don't know what he thought when he said this, because it's been proven that he has been stifling their sovereignty instead of, upholding it or supporting it. But let's go to the clip, and I will put the article in the chat and the videos, the links to these videos in the chat as well.
Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest on how ties between France and its former colonies and allies in Africa are plummeting to a new low with each passing day. After evicting French troops from its territory, Chad is now accusing France of contempt. N'Djamena is fuming over the recent remarks made by the French President Emmanuel Macron at a foreign policy conference. Macron not just dismissed suggestions that his country had been forced out of the Sahel region, he went on further to say that he is still waiting for the Sahel nations to thank Paris for stopping them from falling into the hands of Islamist militants. The French president even called some African leaders ungrateful.
2. We had a secure relationship. In truth, it was of two kinds. One part was our commitment to fighting terrorism since 2013. We were right. I think some have forgotten to say thank you, but that's okay.
Just to help you all, just basically whatever he says is saying it's the opposite. That's that forked tongue. That's that forked tongue.
Okay, it'll come in time. I'm in a good position to know that ingratitude is a disease that cannot be transmitted to humans. But I say this for all the African governments who have not had the courage, in the eyes of their public opinion, to bear it. None of them would be in a sovereign country today if the French army had not been deployed in this region.
Many say these comments by the French president were not just condescending, but also echo a colonial rhetoric. And the African nations are not taking these comments lightly. They are calling out Macron's insulting attitude. Chad is among the first Sahel nation to do so. It has asked France to learn how to respect Africans. The statement by Chad's foreign minister was read out on state television.
The government of the Republic of Chad expresses its deep concern at the remarks made recently by the President of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron, which reflect a contemptuous attitude towards Africa and Africans. Instead of attacking Africa, President Macron should concentrate his efforts on solving the problems that preoccupy the French people. Chad wishes to reiterate that it has no problem with France as a nation, nor with the French people, with whom it shares a history marked by human and cultural relations. However, French leaders must learn to respect the African people and recognize the value of their sacrifices.
Senegal in West Africa has also responded to Macron's comments. The country's prime minister took to social media and said France has neither the capacity nor the legitimacy to assure Africa's security or sovereignty. He also rejected Macron's claim that France's military withdrawal from Senegal was the result of its reorganization strategy. Instead, he said it was a decision as an independent and sovereign country. In another swipe at Macron, the Senegalese prime minister said if African soldiers who were mistreated and ultimately betrayed had not defended France in the Second World War, perhaps it would still be German today. Now, these latest war of words come as France has been facing major setbacks in Africa, the continent it was once the biggest colonial power in. After nations gained independence, it still kept engaging with the former colonies. Its troops were stationed in several Sahelian nations to repel Islamist attacks. But around 70% of Africa has kicked France out. The military juntas of West Africa were the first ones to do so. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger severed long-standing ties with France and other Western partners and turned to Russia for support. Then Chad, which used to be a key partner in the region, abruptly ended a key defense and security agreement with France. Around 1,000 French military personnel were stationed there and are in the process of being withdrawn. Then Senegal and the Ivory Coast have also asked France to leave military bases on their territory. Now, the only French troops present in Africa are in Gabon and Djibouti. African nations have often accused France of neo-colonial inclinations, and such comments by Macron are only fueling the anti-French sentiment further. Now, this is not the first time that he has made such remarks. Back in 2017, when he was newly elected as president, he faced a severe backlash for saying Africa has a civilizational problem.
As I said, we got a lot of news stories. So, Macron is just basically mad, and he's just, showing his heart. Out of the mouth is the abundance of the heart. I believe that's the saying or the scripture. Out of the mouth comes the abundance of the heart. So he really never had respect for Africans or their sovereignty, and he's always thought of them as subhumans, and he thinks that they are not smart enough to understand that, they've done everything to be an obstacle to their progression. And now that everyone in Africa is waking up, he has nothing better to do than to just, continue to try to, patronize them and try to make it seem like they're doing the wrong thing by taking their own country's security back into their hands. But I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth. But so, this is what they've done. This is how they do it. They use different language. They try to, demoralize your character. They try to make it seem like you are, inadequate, incompetent, in order to, justify their rule or justify their partnership. It's just a huge gaslight that's not working anymore.
French President Emmanuel Macron has disrespected Africa, and African presidents are furious. We're going to find out just now. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day. Thank you very much for stopping by. Yay! I salute you from all over the place. Sani Bonani, South Africa. Jebaliko, Basebona Banyabo, Ugandan. Shikamo, Tanzania. VP, Kenya. Amakuru, Nimeza, Rwanda and Burundi. I see you. Nigeria, Ghana, Tobago, Trinidad, Jamaica, United States of America. Thank you very much. If you want to know about news in Africa, you are at the right spot. We don't know each other, but we're going to love each other. Trust me. Okay? You want to know what's happening in a continent, you're at the right spot. You want to know what's happening in the next African country in terms of culture, in terms of environment, geopolitics, you are at the right place. You want to know how Nigerians think, you are at the right place. You want to get news about South Africans, you are at the right place. Thank you very much. Today, we're going to talk about something very interesting. The French president has said something that has shocked most people, and Africans are very furious about it. This is what he said.
We had a secure relationship. In truth, it was of two kinds. One part was our commitment to fighting terrorism since 2013. We were right. I think some have forgotten to say thank you, but that's okay. It'll come in time. I'm in a good position to know that ingratitude is a disease that cannot be transmitted to humans. But I say this for all the African governments who have not had the courage, in the eyes of their public opinion, to bear it. None of them would be in a sovereign country today if the French army had not been deployed in this region.
So as you can see, Senegal and Chad have reacted strongly to the remarks by French President Emmanuel Macron about African countries being ungrateful over France's role in helping fight jihadists in the continent. So Macron was having a discussion with his ambassadors, okay? And while he was talking, Macron likes to talk quite a bit. He said that Africans are ungrateful. They were supposed to say thank you to us, but they didn't. I know we are respectful people. It's fine. They're supposed to thank us for that, for all the sacrifice we've done for them. On Monday, Macron said Sahel state forgot to thank France for its role. Now, he said two things, and I want you to note. Number one, he said no Sahelian country would have been sovereign nation without France's help. No Sahelian country will be sovereign without France's intervention that prevented them from falling under the control of militants.
Le dialogue avec l'Afrique ne peut pas être l'otage d'un panafricanisme de bonne loi contemporain qui utilise en quelque sorte un discours postcolonial en ayant d'ailleurs des soutiens de revers qui sont les impérialistes d'aujourd'hui. Et donc, cette espèce de combination de faux intellectuels manipulant les réseaux sociaux, utilisant le désarroi d'une jeunesse et les intérêts de la Russie ou d'autres en Afrique, soyons lucides, mais n'y cédons pas.
So, if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be a country. You'd probably be the Bush or Afghanistan. That's how he said. He said we were right to deploy. I think someone forgot to say thank you. And it's okay. Okay, it comes with time. I mean, how do you speak that way? It's okay, it comes with time. It's like somebody said to you, I don't want to have children in the future. Or I don't want to be married. I'm just saying. It's like a child says, I don't want to go to school. I don't think school is important. And you as an adult, you say to them, now, don't worry. In the future, you'll understand. That's how you speak to your child, right? It's okay, it will come with time. You'll understand why you needed to go to school. Number two, he said, we propose to the African head of state to reorganize our presence. As we are very polite, we left them with the primacy of the announcement. So it's okay, it will come with time. You'll understand why you needed to say thank you to us for making you sovereign. And that has infuriated many people, especially the Senegalese and the Chadian presidents. They have reacted.
Je voudrais exprimer mon indignation vis-à-vis des propos tenus récemment par le président Macron qui frise le mépris envers l'Afrique et les Africains. Je crois qu'il se trompe d'époque. La décision de mettre fin à l'accord de coopération militaire avec la France est entièrement une décision souveraine du Tchad. Cela ne souffre d'aucune ambiguïté.
We negotiated with them, we discussed with them, okay? And because we're polite, we allowed them to announce that we're leaving the continent. Okay, let me just put it this way for you. So France has been in the African continent for the longest time, okay? Let's not talk about colonialism. Let's just talk about very lately when they proposed to come to Africa and fight against terrorists that they created, as per many experts. How did they create terrorism? When they went to attack Libya, okay, destroying Libya, there were a bunch of people that became terrorists in that area of life. So France and America decided that they did not want Gaddafi anymore. What did they do? They went and spoke to some people that were actually terrorists. They called them freedom fighters. They sponsored them. They gave them weapons. Those people went and fought Gaddafi and they took over the government. What happened next? After Gaddafi was unalive, the same people started creating mayhem in that side of Africa. Look at the map. This is Sahel. These are the same people that French and Americans sponsored that have become what you call now terrorists. Now he's saying you should be grateful that we came into Africa. You know, you should be grateful for that. And this is how African head of state have reacted. This is the Prime Minister of Senegal, Ousmane Sonko. He was supposed to be the president. Sonko said, I would like to say that in the case of Senegal, this statement is completely erroneous. No discussion or negotiation has taken place to date, and the decision taken by Senegal arises from its sole will as a free country, independent and sovereign. So what does he say here? Let me just remind you, a few weeks ago, Senegal kicked out the French. Okay, after Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad, Senegal also said, France, take your soldiers and leave our country.
J'ai instruit le ministre des Forces armées de proposer une nouvelle doctrine de coopération en matière de défense et de sécurité, impliquant, entre autres conséquences, la fin de toutes les présences militaires des pays étrangers au Sénégal dès 2025.
Now, the French president is trying to say that the reason why we are being kicked out of these African countries, it's in fact a negotiation that's been taking place between us and the African countries' leaders. But because we're very polite, we've allowed them to come forward and express themselves and say, you leave. Senegalese Prime Minister say, absolutely not. For us, as a sovereign country, we have decided to kick you out. So don't be telling all that narrative that's absolutely not correct. Take it on the chin. Sonko continued by saying, let us note that France has neither the capacity nor the legitimacy to ensure Africa's security and sovereignty. So France does not have the capacity to ensure our security. Just because you came here for a few years doesn't mean you ensure our security. You know, it's not you. The Senegalese Prime Minister also said that France in the past contributed to destabilizing certain African countries, such as Libya, which had disastrous consequences for the region in terms of security. So this is very interesting, fellas. Now, Sonko continued by saying, you coming here explaining all these things to your ambassador, trying to make them feel like these Africans are ungrateful. Do you remember that back in time, it's actually African soldiers that were sometimes forcibly mobilized, mistreated, and ultimately betrayed? They were
All right, family, the link is in the chat. And basically, we help our brothers and sisters by creating initiatives that actually help them develop their economic progress and critical infrastructure, helping with their sovereignty, you know, securing their borders. I mean, all that is vital to developing and progressing a country. And you know, they're not dumb anymore. They're waking up that, you know, the French has been stifling their progress and has been the reason why they haven't been able to, you know, progress, for lack of a better term, because they have been actively sponsoring and funding jihadism in the country, and obviously that destabilizes the population. How can you, you know, destabilizes the country? How can you, you know, hope to advance your country when it's not safe and, you know, the government is, you know, being undermined by said occupational foreign forces in the country? All right, and here we go. This is why I say exchanging oppressors, because it's great that Chad and Senegal are, you know, kicking out the French, but you know who's there rubbing their hands like Birdman, and you know who's salivating. Oh man, give me a second. That's an error. I wanted to do that other story first, but let's do it. Okay. It doesn't matter. I can always go back. Give me a second. Chinese finance minister to strengthen ties during Africa visit. So basically, China's like, oh, now the West is weak. Now let's go in there and, you know, take our claim and, you know, let's offer them something so we can have, you know, a geopolitical posturing and we can advance our own motives, because, you know, the Chinese aren't really going to help the African countries, because they have a track record that doesn't instill trust, and their strategic partnerships aren't that much better. Okay, as the article says, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has embarked on a visit to 4 African nations: Namibia, Republic of the Congo, Nigeria, and Chad, making the 35th consecutive year that Chinese Foreign Minister has chosen Africa as the destination for his first overseas trip of the year. For decades, China's annual visit has underscored a deep-rooted partnership but mutual respect between China and Africa. So the article, you know, dictates, because I believe that's further from the truth. Each trip is aimed at addressing key challenges facing Africa, from poverty alleviation and infrastructure deficit to sustainable growth.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has embarked on a visit to Namibia, the Republic of the Congo, Nigeria, and Chad, marking the 35th consecutive year that the Chinese Foreign Minister has chosen Africa as the destination for his first overseas trip of the year.
China has been advancing the concept of win-win cooperation, and they truly believe that as they engage and connect with Africa, they're able to grow as a country, but they're also able to help Africa make progress. Africa as a whole is looking forward to enhanced cooperation in various areas, whether we're talking about infrastructure, where China has done fantastic work in various African countries, you know.
This year's trip is expected to have discussions on major economic partnerships in the 4 African countries, and that both China and Africa will continue to pursue their common objectives in peace and stability.
All right, and this next video is his visit to the Chadian president. Like I'm saying, you need to be careful with these people, because now they see that, you know, Western dominance and Western rule in Africa is subsiding, that other foreign entities are seeing an opportunity to set up their own interests and get their own political, or, well, not political, so they could set up their own economic future, because Africa is the future. That's where all the resources are. And as I said, they need to tread lightly, because there has been a track record of of China not really, you know, delivering on their promises, or they'll give out loans with unfair interest rates that cannot be paid back, and, you know, projects that only give jobs to Chinese citizens, and, you know, not some of these, you know, projects, they never are really training the African nations or populations to be able to, you know, build up their own infrastructure, or build up their own, you know, economic tools, or economic outlets, you know, such as mines, and, you know, such as road infrastructure. They just come in and do it. And then, you know, yes, that, like that reporter says, yes, it looks good on paper and it's just an optic, but it really doesn't empower that people of that nation to, you know, get better or smart, you know, not smarter, get better or more proficient in said industry, so they could become economically independent.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has met with Chadian President Mahamat Idris Deby Itno in N'Djamena, Wang Yi, who is on the third leg of its four-nation Africa tour, said China is ready to work with Chad in implementing pact agreed on by the two countries. The Chinese top diplomat said China will provide support for Chad's development as the two countries work towards expanding relations. On his part, Mohamed Idris Deby Itno sent greetings to Chinese President Xi Jinping, calling him a visionary leader who has led China to achieve great economic takeoff. While appreciating China's support for the development of Africa, Itno said China remains a strategic and trustworthy friend of Chad. The Chadian president also sent his condolences to the Chinese government and its Chinese people over the earthquake in Xizang. The Chinese foreign minister's first overseas trip of the year is always to Africa and is part of a 35-year-long tradition. Well, CGTN's Penina Karive is in Jamena and has been covering Mr. Wang Yi's visit to Chad. Hi there, Penina. Penina, the Chinese foreign minister has already left Chad and is en route to Nigeria. What are the key highlights of Wang Yi's meeting with the Chadian leader and the country's other top officials, Penina?
Well, Hannah, it was a whirlwind visit by Wang Yi. He was here a maximum of 5 hours. He touched down here in Jamena at noon local time. That's 11 GMT. He was received at the airport by Chad's foreign minister, and he headed straight to State House, where he met with Chad's president, Idris Deby Itno. They had a conversation there. Part of the conversation, of course, was what you highlighted. We heard from President Deby Itno saying that China has been a trustworthy friend for Chad and that it's now a strategic partner for Chad. He said that Chad is appreciative of China's commitment, long-term commitment to Africa's development and especially Chad. President Deby also said that he is grateful and that Chad is grateful because China has always had this cooperation with Africa that he said was based on mutual benefits and mutual respect and equality. And he said that that cooperation has borne fruit. He said moving forward, the two countries, especially Chad, he said, was committed to strengthening their cooperation and communication with China and that they would both defend strategic positions that are important to them. Now, on the part of Minister Wang Yi, he said first that President Xi Jinping was appreciative of the fact that China was the first international destination for President Deby when he got re-elected for his second term. He attended FOCAC last year, Hannah, and Wang Yi said that his attendance, of course, contributed to FOCAC being a successful summit. He also said that China is committed to helping Chad. He said that China does not discriminate regardless of a country's size or weaknesses or strength. And he said that China does not support bullying of other countries by some countries. That's what he said. And so he said moving forward, they are going to elevate their relations into strategic relations from bilateral relations. Now, after that, Foreign Minister Wang Yi headed to the Prime Minister. He was there briefly, Hannah. It was a closed-door meeting. We didn't get much details of what happened or what was discussed. And then he went to the Foreign Affairs Ministry, where he again was received by the Foreign Affairs Minister. Again, that was a closed-door meeting. We are as yet to get details of what was discussed in that meeting. But really, Hannah, no prizes for guessing why this visit was so important. It might have lasted just 5 hours, but it was profoundly impactful and significant, especially for Chad citizens. We had an opportunity to interact with them in the streets of N'Djamena just to get a glimpse of what it is they expect and what they think. And what we largely got from them is that they were saying China has so far done quite a bit for them as a country. This is a country that is underdeveloped, Hannah. I've been here several times. Infrastructure is barely existent. Sectors such as energy, water as well, barely existent. And so they are hopeful that these are some of the contributions China will have on them to elevate their lives. There's a lot of expectation here on the ground. They are saying that finally they can see a partner that they say they can trust will be able to help them move forward and progress their country. We did a report just as well to get views of some analysts from around the region, Hannah, on what this visit might mean. Remember, there's so many countries that he could have picked, Minister Wang Yi could have picked to come to, but Chad made the list. And so for that reason alone, a lot of guesses. France as well has been one of those international partners that we have seen getting ejected by Chad. And Chad has been saying that as it evolves, so will its relationship with the international community. And so it's no wonder that we are now seeing a key interest by Chad into countries such as China, whom they have.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Chad should not be doing, trust me, Chad should have or should look into, doing partnerships with the AES and them keeping it in the family, so to speak, as they sounds like Goodfellas or something. Keep it in the family, but seriously, you got to do other, partnerships with your brothers and sisters who are, actively seeking their own sovereignty and have kicked out the colonizers that, have plagued them for so long. And like I'm saying, like there is credence to what I'm saying because China has done different initiatives in other countries and they've either failed or just have been downright, not beneficial for, they just haven't been beneficial. So we'll see. But this is also a story that I just literally decided to put this morning, so bear with me. That's not what I'm trying to do. Nope. There you go. After this meeting, there was an attempt on the president's life.
For our next story, let's shift our focus from East Africa to the central part of the continent. In the Central African country of Chad, there has been a deadly assault on the presidential complex. Several gunmen attempted to storm the head of state's residence in the capital of N'Djamena. Now, this attack came just hours after China's top diplomat had met with Chad's president in the presidential palace. Authorities have said that at least 18 attackers and 1 security personnel were killed after members of an alleged 24-strong command unit tried to overrun the presidential complex.
What happened was an attack by 25 assailants, 24 to be precise, a sort of group of bandits who arrived armed with machetes and knives. They descended violently, stabbing the 4 guards who were present. 1 guard was killed, 2 others were seriously injured, and 1 sustained a lesser injury, though his life is not in danger. After that, they managed to penetrate a short distance inside the presidency, and one of the guards began firing, alerting the other guards stationed nearby.
Reports suggest that the armed unit opened fire inside the president's complex on Wednesday evening, and all roads leading up to the complex were blocked with tanks visible on the streets. Now, Chad's president, Mohamed Idris Deby Itno, was also reportedly inside the complex at the time of the attack. The situation was later brought under control, with the government saying that the attempt to destabilize Chad had been fully eradicated. The government also assured the people that there was no security threat weighing on the country and that it would annihilate those who question the integrity of Chad. Now, according to media reports, the attackers were considered to be members of the Boko Haram terrorist group that is known for its mass kidnappings, killings, and human rights abuses, and has wreaked havoc in the Lake Chad region of the country. But the government said that they were probably not terrorists and were just a band of intoxicated men wielding knives and machetes.
Personally, I don't find it credible that this was a terrorist act, as I was at the scene. However, the public prosecutor will provide clarification on the matter. In reality, they're a group of amateurs. They had no weapons of war. Their attempt was disorganized and completely incomprehensible.
Now, the attack on the presidential complex coincided with the official visit by China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi, who was at the presidential complex just hours before the attack occurred. Wang Yi is on an Africa tour this week to advance Beijing's already sizable influence across the resource-rich continent as the West's influence wavers.
You have arrived at a time when Chad has decided to free itself from the tutelage of foreign forces on its territory and to turn resolutely towards development. Who better than China to be an effective development partner?
Okay, I could tell you why China's not an effective partner. Let's continue with these stories. Here you go. I got receipts. Chinese-owned gold mine stirs controversy in eastern Zimbabwe. Chinese-owned gold mine stirs controversy in eastern Zimbabwe. Government officials in Zimbabwe have been scrutinizing a Chinese mining company that has been operating a gold mine in the country's eastern region since at least 2021. The scrutiny comes as residents voice concern about the impact on health and the environment. Villagers and community groups have complained about the blasting that has taken place at the mine. Nearby residents have reported widespread ecological damage, including the decimation of a mountain and the displacement of wildlife. They also say tremors from the blast have caused structural damage to homes. Yes, Chinese, no better partner than China to develop your infrastructure as they're, in other countries, diminishing the quality of life of African citizens in African, countries. They have no care for these people. It's just that China is good at soft power, meaning they don't come off abrasive. They're very, cordial. They understand respect, and they're a little bit more tactful than the West. That doesn't mean they have your best interest at heart.
And staying in southern Africa, while South Africa is taking action against Zimbabwe's migrants, Zimbabwe is taking action against Chinese miners. Zimbabwe's government is scrutinizing a Chinese mining company for severe environmental impact due to its operations in the country. The company in question is Sino-Africa Huijin Holdings. It has been operating a gold mine in the country's east for at least 4 years since 2021. It lies in the Matasa district of the Manicaland province, and the mining firm has been facing accusations of severe environmental destruction and community harm. Several residents have raised issues against the operations. The complaints against the Chinese firm comes after the recent blast that took place at the mine. Apart from the health and environmental impact, locals also say that tremors from the blasts have caused structural damage to their homes. The Chinese gold mine has in fact been shut down twice in the past years over a series of complaints. These include widespread ecological damage, the displacement of wildlife, dust pollution, and the potential contamination of water sources due to the alleged cyanide leaching where gold is extracted from ore. The Chinese firm is also accusing of forging signatures on their environmental impact assessment documents. Now, after facing shutdowns in the past, the firm promised to improve the situation. And this is why it was allowed to resume operations. However, it has once again come to the spotlight. However, this is not an isolated case. A recent study has found Chinese mining benches have led to various harmful repercussions across Zimbabwe. These include environmental degradation, disregard for the cultural rights of the host communities, and also the violation of labor laws. Chinese investors control an estimated 90% of the Zimbabwean mining industry. China remains a major player in Africa's mining sector, with a growing presence in the region. Beijing has reportedly invested in mining in at least 12 African countries, and many of these nations have raised concerns over the Chinese operations and malpractices. It's not just the environment, but Chinese mining firms are also accused of human rights violations. They have allegedly abused miners to extract the key minerals. They have also been criticized for safety issues. Recently, a Chinese-run gold mine was accused for rapidly encroaching on a heritage site in the DRC. In return, the Democratic Republic of Congo's officials arrested 3 Chinese nationals for smuggling 12 gold bars and $800,000 in cash. Apart from unsafe operations, many African nations have also accused China of carrying out illegal mining. And in turn, several African nations have arrested Chinese illegal miners. So while Beijing attempts to increase its dominance in the African mining industry and take away its crucial mineral wealth, the downside of its practices are not being overlooked by the African nations.
See, so I'm not just, making things up. I mean, you're exchanging one oppressor for the other. You know, that's why we're needed. We need to help our brothers and sisters. Basically, we need to help. We're needed to help them understand the tactics of the West and the East, and that they should be doing deals with other African countries and amongst themselves. And not all African countries are like this. And again, Captain Ibrahim Traore is, showing what an African leader should be. And like I said, this is not the only incident where Chinese companies or Chinese entities have been taking advantage of the resources of African nations and countries, and undermining their sovereignty, having no care for their cultural landmarks or cultural laws. The next story and final one: Chinese nationals arrested with gold bars, $800,000 cash in DR Congo. So basically, they have been found they've been found by the government for stealing gold, which, definitely hurts the country, because that's lost revenue, and, they have to tax these entities to come into their country and to have, take gold. They owe the DRC government $10 million alone just from this incident. And I will just, play the clip.
Our last story for today is from Central Africa, where the Democratic Republic of Congo has arrested Chinese nationals for gold smuggling. 3 Chinese nationals have reportedly been arrested with 12 gold bars and $800,000 in cash in the eastern region of the DRC. Authorities in the South Kivu province said that the gold and money were hidden under the seats of the vehicle that the suspects were traveling in. Authorities further said that they were acting on a tip-off, and that the gold, as well as the money, was only found after a meticulous search of the vehicle. But they said that the operation to arrest the Chinese nationals had been kept a secret, as some of the dealers in precious metals enjoyed good relations with influential people in the capital, Kinshasa. Now, the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo has abundant reserves of gold, diamonds, cobalt, and minerals used to make batteries for mobile phones and electric vehicles. This mineral wealth has been plundered by foreign groups since the colonial era, and is one of the main reasons why the region has been plagued by instability for the last 30 years. Militia groups have controlled many of the mines in eastern DRC, and their leaders have become wealthy by selling them to third parties. Competition over mining operations has also fueled fighting in the region that borders with Rwanda, and the Central African country has struggled to stop unlicensed companies and armed groups from exploiting its rich reserves. Now, the arrest of the foreign nationals comes weeks after 17 Chinese men had been arrested on suspicion of running an illegal gold mine in the strife-torn South Kivu province in December. The men were arrested after a government delegation made an unannounced visit to the mine site. But days later, DRC freed 14 of the 17 Chinese men who were detained along with others from Congo and neighboring Burundi. Now, this prompted the governor of South Kivu province to say that freeing the nationals was undermining the efforts to clean up the DRC's notoriously murky mineral sector. The governor also reportedly said the nationals owed $10 million in taxes and fines to the government. Moreover, the recent arrest is also coming at a time when China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi is visiting Africa to advance Beijing's sizable influence across the resource-rich continent. Wang Yi is expected to visit Namibia, the Republic of Congo, Chad, and Nigeria.
All right, Q2A helps by creating a cultural engagement initiative and business initiative to stop illegal mining, building relationships with the local communities to foster awareness about the negative impacts of illegal mining will help encourage them to, report illegal mining, and they can make certain measures within the government and within local governments to help, report these crimes and to help clean up the the mining industry within the Congo or any other African country. Policy advocacy, we can consult with different firms and different governments. Well, in this case, the DRC government or, any other African nation, we would be advocacies to stop illegal mining practices and, create different laws to, punish, and to enforce a punishment and to deter, the behavior of illegal mining, and then also to help with their supply chain, to help them track the different resources going in and out of the Congo, to help make sure that they're getting all the profit from their own minerals instead of, having their wealth stolen, because that's exactly what's happening. Illegal mining is, them stealing wealth. The Chinese need the DRC and different African resources to help, compete with the advantation of green energy, mining, minerals such as cobalt to create computers and green energy batteries and all that good stuff.
What drives the hidden world of gold smuggling in Africa? In the heart of the Democratic Republic of Congo, a secret operation has uncovered a web of intrigue and illegal trade. 3 Chinese nationals were arrested with 12 gold bars and $800,000 in cash concealed under the seats of their vehicle. According to officials, 3 Chinese nationals were arrested in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo with 12 gold bars and $800,000 in cash. The gold and money were found hidden beneath the seats of the vehicle they were traveling in, as confirmed by Jean-Jacques Purusi, the governor of South Kivu province. The arrest occurred in the Walungu area, close to the Rwandan border. Following a tip-off, Governor Jean-Jacques Purusi of South Kivu province highlighted the secretive nature of the operation, referencing the recent release of a group of Chinese nationals previously accused of operating an illegal gold mine in the region. Acting on a tip-off, authorities found the gold and cash only after a thorough search of the vehicle in the Walungu area, not far from the Rwanda border. Purusi did not disclose the exact amount of gold seized. Last month, the governor expressed shock when he learned that 17 Chinese nationals arrested for allegedly running an illegal gold mine had been released and allowed to return to China. He criticized their release, stating it undermined efforts to clean up the DRC's notoriously corrupt mineral sector. These individuals owed the government $10 million in unpaid taxes and fines, according to Reuters. These arrests come at a time when fighting continues to intensify in neighboring North Kivu province, where a Rwanda-backed rebel group has taken control of vast areas of land. In a related development, DR Congo recently filed a lawsuit against Apple over the use of black minerals, prompting the tech giant to announce it had stopped sourcing materials for both DR Congo and Rwanda. Rwanda has denied being a channel for the illegal export of minerals from the DRC. The lawsuit filed by the Congolese government claims that minerals extracted from conflict zones are being laundered through international supply chains. Eastern DRC is a treasure trove of valuable resources rich in gold, diamonds, and essential minerals used in the production of mobile phones, electric vehicles, and other modern technologies. This vast mineral wealth, however, has not only attracted global attention, but also exploitation by foreign groups since the colonial era, leading to a continuous cycle of conflict and instability in the region over the past 30 years. The desire to control these lucrative resources has fueled violence, as armed militias and criminal groups seize control of many of the region's mines. These militias often force local miners into dangerous and exploitative labor conditions, further exacerbating the socio-economic challenges faced by the local population. As the miners extract these valuable resources, the minerals are sold to intermediaries, who then traffic them to international markets. Some of these middlemen have established strong ties with influential figures in the capital Kinshasa, which complicates efforts to enforce regulations, clean up the country's notoriously murky mineral sector, and combat the illicit trade that underpins much of the conflict. The entanglement of political and economic interests has made it difficult to break the cycle of exploitation, corruption, and violence, leaving the region's rich natural resources largely untapped in ways that could benefit local communities while continuing to fuel external interests. Illegal mining activities in the DRC have led to severe environmental degradation, with devastating
All right, family, that's all I have. As I said, this is why we are pivotal and why we need to, really think about ways we could help our brothers and sisters create strategic partnerships that are beneficial to them and us and the diaspora as a whole. That is Quest Unite Africa's mission. And as you could see, now that our brothers and sisters are waking up, it is our job to help them make sure and safeguard them from these bad deals that these foreign entities and non-Africans want to get them in for their own geopolitical benefit or economic interest. And that's all I have. Enjoy the rest of your day, your weekend, and your Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.